Live from Seattle, it's the Drinking Coffee and Writing Code podcast.
Brought to you by the letter L, the number 13, and our sponsor, Hot Tamale.
No, fuck that.
Dude,
Welcome
this
to
shit's good.
Welcome to episode 61 of the Coffee and Codecast, a tech podcast where we talk about neither coffee or code, even though I'm drinking coffee today.
How appropriate are you? Drinking coffee on the Coffee and Codecast. What's your name?
What?
What's your name?
Oh, did I not give my name? I'm Kyle Johnson.
So nice to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
I'm Mike Sheehan. I'm the co-host of the show. This is episode 61, homeboys.
Yeah, made it 61 episodes, and we're sponsored today by Hot Tamales.
Hot Tamales and apparently Microsoft, because we both have laptops with no Coffee Codecast logo sponsorship.
And we need to fix that. Very branded, though. We should get a sponsorship.
Yeah, I'm going to get some stickers.
Maybe the Rifkin can hook us up with that. What do we got going on the show today? Well, you don't know.
We have so much to cover today. We have an abundance of material to cover. We're going to talk about tech news.
Wow.
There'll be a lot of tech news to cover today.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about stocks, tech stocks,
Oh,
Robinhood.
okay.
We're going to cover some hot action on the stock market and the tech industry.
Airline miles?
Mileage runs
will
be appropriate for the
course,
conversation today. And then we're going to talk about a little catch-up. We're going to do a little post-mortem, if you will, on the Christina Vidari podcast last week, episode 60. That was a great episode, by the way.
That was a great episode. We got a lot of positive feedback on that one.
We had a work discussion the next day.
Who did?
I came into my office. There was 3 people in my office talking about that. Kim, it was really great, actually. Kim took a lot away from that show. And so she was in my office talking to Tristan about some ideas that we should incorporate based on Christina's feedback in the recruiting process.
Awesome. That's amazing. That was my hope, and I thought a lot of people would get something out of it. She was very... she didn't believe me at all. Of course, she doesn't believe me oftentimes about a lot of things, but...
You seem like a pretty trustworthy guy.
She doesn't seem to think so. I don't know.
Can everybody hear us?
Maybe. I don't know. Survey, let us know if you can hear us.
Hey, Survey, let me know if there's any audio. If we don't hear from him.
We're talking to nobody right now,
If we don't hear from him, then we know that something's wrong.
Right.
We got a little change up in the equipment today. So as people, I don't think we talked about this on the podcast, but I've been using the Macintosh for a couple of years now, the MacBook Pro.
Do they call it that anymore? I don't think they call it Macintosh.
I just call it
I think
that.
I read somewhere like they removed the very last instance of the word Macintosh from their website like very recently.
So it's Mac.
Mac.
Yeah, so I've been using a Mac since really the beginning of the podcast for the most part. Maybe not right away, but at least for certainly as long as we've been doing video, we've had the Mac running the scenes for us, the iPad, the MacBook Pro, and now I have a new work equipment. I went back to the work issued hardware, the Surface Pro 7.
Well, because the Mac was something that you bought on your
dime.
On your binge.
Yeah.
Spending binge.
Yeah, I've had a few of those.
Survey, by the way, told us he can hear us, so we're good.
That is awesome. Thank you, Survey. Anyway, to make a long story even longer, what happened was I have a new machine, and I came in today. My Mac is at home, my iPad's at home, and I thought, oh, it's the podcast, and I don't have any of the hardware that I use to run the show. So what are we going to do? We couldn't run the Sling Studio because that only runs on a Mac. Found that out today.
Or iPad, which would normally actually is where you run it, right?
Yeah, I'll make sure the iPad. I should keep the iPad with me. It's at home right now. But anyway, we like 20 minutes ago downloaded OBS Studio and fired up a couple scenes, and now we've got the webcam USB Logitech 920 C920. It does a pretty good job. It's not bad for a little webcam.
It's what I use in the office day to day.
Yeah.
So do you.
So we're using new hardware. I guess that's the fucking point of the story, is that we have some new hardware. We're using a USB camera, not the usual setup, not the Sling Studio, not the Macintosh, and somehow we still managed to get live at 7 o'clock with some pretty good stuff going on here today.
7 o'clock.
6 o'clock. 7 o'clock Mountain Time.
Okay.
we have a large audience in the Mountain Time zone there.
Fair enough.
And there you go. There you have it. A little intense down here tonight. I don't know if you heard the sirens. We have a little activity down here. More than usual.
People be shooting people.
Yeah, there's a little shooting going on down here. So if you see us ducking for under the table here, there was a shooting on 3rd Avenue about 30 minutes ago.
Apparently another one at 4th and Pine.
Wow.
Yep.
Officer involved shooting.
Is that right? I didn't see that part. Well, the good news is we're pretty high, so they're going to be going up, traveling up if they're going to get up here. So
That's a rough part of town now. Like that whole stretch, Pike Pine corridor there by the Macy's, the now defunct Macy's that's closing.
McStabby's, we used to call it that.
McStabby's, dude.
That's the McDonald's corner there.
I go there for McDonald's because it's the easiest. I can get there via light rail. So I'm willing to risk the Stabby to get some Mickey D's.
All right. Is it that good? I don't know. I mean, only if you're getting your... No, that's not even Impossible Whopper territory. Like, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm one of those guys, and there are others out there. Dave Lester's one of them. He'll back me up on this. I know everybody's like, there's a lot of naysayers about Mickey D's. I love McDonald's. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Nothing beats a McDonald's quarter pounder or breakfast sando.
I got to say, for all your high-class shit that you have, like the Spin coffee maker, you got your MacBook, we got the Shure mics, like all this high-quality shit. And then what do you go to? You go to Dick's Burgers.
Yeah,
you go to
Dick's,
McDonald's.
Mickey D's.
Like, clearly your funding does not go towards food.
No, man, like some things are better on a budget. McDonald's burgers, but they're not cheap, by the way, anymore. Like, I'll just point that out. Like, whatever happened to going to McDonald's drive-thru for like $3? Like, that you can't do that anymore.
Really? Like, yeah, it used to be, what, $5 for a meal or something? Like, you get the whole deal?
Oh, yeah, no way. That never happens anymore. Like, the best you can get now is like a mix and match. They have like 2 for $5 or something like that. Kind of a deal. But if you're getting a meal, you get like a Big Mac meal or you want to get a quarter pounder meal, you don't even get the large one. You just get like a regular size. You're walking out of there for like, $10.
Is that true everywhere, though, or is that just here? Like, I mean, are we looking at economies of scale here? Because, like, it's expensive to be here. So, like, is it that? Like, back in the Midwest, is it maybe still $5? I have no idea.
I doubt it. I think it's one of those things that I think part of it, too, is it's image, right? I think they've wanted to position themselves as, healthy is the wrong word, clearly. But I think they want, like, Chipotle has just exploded. You want to talk, I mean, we'll get into stock talk early. Chipotle stock is insane. It's like $900 a share.
Is it really?
Massive.
They must not have a lot of stock out there then.
I don't know what that looks like, what their market cap is. All I know is that people love Chipotle, and it's because it's fresh, it's healthy as far as fast food's concerned, right?
I love Chipotle too, but I thought during what they have, like an E. coli problem or something at one point.
There was a big,
pretty big,
nationwide. It affected everybody.
I thought they kind of lost a lot of steam during that, but maybe they've recovered.
They've recovered.
Okay.
Yeah, they've recovered from that. But I think it was because they were very. What I remember is they were very transparent about it and shut all the stores down and very proactive. Like, we're closing the stores, we're going to clean everything, and we're going to be bigger and better. And they have since released like these new bowls this year. I don't know if you've seen this, but 2019 they have like different, depending on your health preferences. So you can get like the keto bowl, or you can get like the low, whatever, the low carb bowl, the protein bowl, that kind of shit. And their stock's doing very well. But I think that kind of, like, because of that trend where people want healthier food options, fast food options to go, McDonald's was trying to say, look, we got to do a little better. So they came out with the quarter pounder is now fresh, not frozen.
They're going the Wendy's way now.
Yeah, they did that last year sometime. So now it's a fresh beef patty.
All right.
And they're doing an extended trial now into Canada of the, not the Impossible, but the other one. Beyond
right.
Burger.
I knew they were doing Beyond because Burger King's got Impossible, so like they've got to be competitors, right?
But they just expanded that to a larger audience in Canada, our friends to the north, and I think because of all this shit, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think it probably helps them out. Hey, we have this healthy image, we're putting this healthier marketing out there, and then we're going to raise our prices, so like you're paying for a premium product, that's my guess. I'm not.
So that's why you're into it then, because you're into premium products.
Yeah, I do like premium products. So I get
it all comes back around. All right.
Yeah, there you go, man. I get a fresh quarter pounder for the premium price of $7.68.
Very good.
I'm in, man. I'm in.
All right, and possibly a nice gunshot to go with it.
Hey, man, it's worth the risk to get some Mickey D's. Otherwise, I have to call Uber Eats. I got to pay for someone to bring it down. That's an expensive Uber Eats, by the way. If you try doing Uber Eats McDonald's, I've done it several times. It's not affordable. It turns like what's already an expensive McDonald's burger into like a fucking ridiculous one because you're spending like $18 to get like a Big Mac meal delivered to the house. That's more for like break glass in case of emergency, like hangover material. Then that's when I leverage that option.
When you can't move.
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
can't get off, like when getting downstairs on the elevator is an effort. That's when I call Uber Eats in. Get the job done.
All right, that's good.
There you go.
Who knew we were talking McDonald's? All right,
So that's what I had to talk about today. I don't know what's on your agenda.
McDonald's burgers.
Are you for like the last 3 weeks, you've been jonesing to talk about Yule logs and all kinds of crazy shit.
Well, I had it on the list because we talked a number of times on the podcast about strange food,
Yeah,
casseroles,
hot dishes.
hot dishes.
Yeah,
That's right. Well, of course, once we start talking about that shit, everybody sends in their submissions for like, look at this disgusting thing.
hot dish.
Yeah. So I got a couple of them. We got tuna and waffles.
That's disgusting, and that's an oldie too. That's like some fucking Campbell shit.
Yeah, you look at this. This was an ad like in a newspaper, I think. It looks like maybe like a color ad in a newspaper. And literally it's like waffles. Well, here, it's blend 1 can Campbell's cream of mushroom soup with, what is that? A 1/3 cup of milk. Okay. That's how you start.
Wow.
1 cup drained flaked tuna. So canned tuna.
Drained flaked tuna.
Yep.
Do they even make that anymore?
7-ounce can. Sure they do.
That sounds like some byproduct of like the 50s.
No, like right next to, now you can get like the tuna in like pouches, like foil pouches.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right next to that.
Flaked tuna.
Yeah.
Shredded.
Yeah. You need a 1/4 cup sliced stuffed olives. Like the pimento stuffed olives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pimentos.
Some of those. Mike Sheehan, welcome to the show, buddy. Thanks for joining.
Dude, I got my chat window open over here. I don't see any chats. So I'm just opening Facebook so I can make sure I'm tuned in. Chipotle used to be owned by McDick's. See, I didn't get that on my screen. So.
Oh, McDick's.
Mickey D's.
So you got Dick's and McDick's.
McDick's.
Okay.
And Kim's hosting a watch party. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Kim. I don't know what a watch party entails, by the way. I'm curious as to what the hell that is.
I think it's just the option if you're going to share the video on Facebook, then it's like, yay, host a watch party.
All right.
So like if I hit share, then I can write a post, watch party, copy link, share to group. And so I can just say watch party. So if people they don't have to go to your link, they can just click on the screen and see what's happening right now. Live. On
And
the
watch it
Coffee
with
and
Kim
Codecast.
instead of watch it with us. Is that?
Yeah, they could. I mean, we get credit too, I'm sure.
All right.
It's kind of multi-level scheme there, probably. I don't know.
Well, you got your ingredients here for tuna and waffles. I've gone over those. So heat thoroughly. Pour over crisp waffles. And boom. Quick and easy dinner for 4.
Quick and easy.
Yeah.
They didn't mention it's disgusting, but yeah, it's quick and easy.
I mean, here, since we're talking about it here, I'm going to paste this into the old Facebook chat.
Here's a soundbite for you. That's our sponsor of the show tonight. It's Hot Tamales.
That's exactly correct. All right, tuna and waffles is in the chat if you want to, just in case you might want that recipe for later.
Yuck.
Frozen Yule log. This is another really good one. And as a matter of fact, our good friend Rain, friend of the show, he's had this one.
The frozen Yule
The
log.
frozen Yule log. Yep. This is, what is it? Miracle Whip. You all like Miracle Whip, right? Tangy Zip. of
Okay.
Miracle Whip, right?
If you say so.
And then Dole pineapple, sliced pineapple. What else is in here? I can't read it. It's very small. Maraschino cherries, sliced almonds,
I like maraschino cherries.
whipped cream, Dole pineapple. And basically, you're making a Yule log out of all this stuff. It looks equally as horrible as you might imagine. Rain, however, has indicated that it actually tastes quite good. So, add that to your recipe book as well.
I trust his judgment with all things alcoholic, but I'm not sure what I think about his general food preferences.
He did want to go to, what the hell is that new place called? Fats something?
Oh, yeah, Fat Burger.
Shack?
Fat Shack.
Fat Shack?
I call it Fat Burger. That's not it.
Yeah.
It's a great little burger place right down the street here.
It looks, he sent me the menu. It looks good and horrible all at the same time.
It's like something you'd see at the Iowa State Fair. They have like deep fried Oreos.
That's true. Deep fried cheesecake.
Yeah. These are so good. I'm just going to be chewing hot tamales for the next 47 minutes.
Good.
Yeah, I want to go there too. That was another vice of mine. Another weak spot there. I almost Uber Eats that.
Fried food?
Well,
Why are you Uber Eatsing this? This is 5 blocks away from you.
I know, but it was raining outside, dude. It's kind of, it was late. It was late. It was kind of rainy. I didn't do it. Eventually I was like, okay, this is stupid. I'm not going to pay $5.99 in service fees or whatever. Uber Eats has this new plan where you can get free delivery. I looked into that. That's a sham too.
What do you mean? Like you got to pay an upfront fee to get free delivery?
That's right.
For a month or something?
That's right. You can pay $9.99 a month to get free delivery, but the like fine print, you have to spend $15 on food to get free delivery. If you don't, then you're still paying for delivery. So
Zach seems to think that Fat Shack, I'm assuming he's talking about Fat Shack,
yeah,
overrated.
overrated. The menu looked pretty good. One thing I do like about it is that it's in our neighborhood, my neighborhood, Pioneer Square, down here, the historic district. We don't have many late night options, especially somewhat affordable late night options. So 13 Coins is a 24-hour restaurant next to the apartment. But if you want to go get, let's say, a bowl of pasta at 11:30 at night, you're going to pay like $25 for that. Not bad, not a bad option if you're out of options, but I'm not going to go spend that. I'm not going to do that once a week. You know what I mean? It's kind of a novelty thing. Like, ooh, I'm really going to go over to 13 Coins to get something to eat. Maybe get some fried raviolis. But the Fat Shack, it's a lot cheaper, and they're open late. Like, they're open till midnight. No. I think they're open till 3 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday, or Friday and Saturday. They're open really late. Nothing usually here is open past 10. A lot of things close after dinner time.
Still nothing you want to be eating on the regular. I mean,
True that.
trying to watch your girlish figure, that's not going to help you out.
I'm always keeping an eye on that.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like, it's just a nice option to have if you get a little hangry on a Friday night or something like that. You can go down there and get a shake or get a burger with fries in it.
Oh, I mean, I was
silly.
looking at it and luckily my willpower survived because I had ordered a salad early this morning. Like right when I got in, ordered the salad from Evergreens to be ready at noon. Rain asked me if I want to go to the Fat Shack, and I'm like, oh, I do.
Yeah.
But I already got food on the way, so I'm not gonna go.
I'm gonna have to say no today.
Yep.
Well, that's good. Since this is the food episode unofficially,
Oh,
I have been making some upgrades in the kitchen, and I've been using HelloFresh now for about 3 months.
I like HelloFresh a lot.
I'm a big fan. Big fan of HelloFresh. There's been a few misses. Like, there's been a few times when I get stuff that, like, I was missing rice the other day in the ingredients. For some reason, the rice didn't show up, but I had some, so it was fine. The vegetables, some of them seem to need to be used, like, right away. I've had that happen where it's like if you don't use them straight away, they're getting wilty or something.
Sometimes, not frequently.
But not often. Like, that has happened a couple times. But I have to say, like, to your point, you ordered the salad early this morning. Like, I've had meals, like, because it by default, right, depending on how many, it's always 2 servings. You can choose how many meals you want, but I say I get 3 a week, and that's 6 servings. And so what I'll usually do is make the meal, and then I'll have it left over for lunch for the next day or two.
Yep.
So it's nice to have a little built-in security there, so I'm not going to the Fat Shack on a whim.
How do you feel about that, though? Because the one complaint that I do have with HelloFresh, and we've done a couple of them. We've done Blue Apron, we've done HelloFresh. I think we've done one other one. I feel like all of them, however, although they're very, very good, there's Takeshi, very, very good, they all use a shit ton of oil. And we were talking about oil the other night.
Lots of oil.
Yeah. Oh, another tablespoon of oil. Oh, another tablespoon of oil. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Start up a new skillet and put some more oil in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the meals are great. They taste great, but, they're just very fatty.
I had a thought about that when I was making the last one. It was a beef ragu spaghetti type dish. Very tasty. It had some cucumbers in it. It had enough greens to make you think you're eating healthy. But it was the same kind of deal. Like, you had tons of oil because you had to put oil in the fucking pasta thing. And then you had to put oil in the meat, ground beef. And then you had to put it in the sauteed veggies.
Yep.
And then at the end, you just drizzle some on top for good measure, right?
Little, what do they call that?
The essence
finishing
of Emeril?
oil.
I don't know.
Finishing oil,
Boom.
yeah.
So I think my theory on that is that they want to have the healthy slant, like this is healthy food, and it's probably certainly better than what you might get at a restaurant, because these ingredients are fresh, and it's like homemade, and I don't think there's really any preservatives, maybe other than the sauces that they provide, but they have to also taste good. Otherwise, you're not going to order that shit again.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think there's a little bit of that. It's like, well, it's healthier eating, but then, we're going to make it so that you really enjoy it. Like, I mean, there was like a whole slab of like garlic herb butter that they wanted me to dump into this pasta. I put like half of it in there. I don't normally put butter on top of oil in the pasta. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's all these different things. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
That's the only complaint I have with it. I mean, the flavors are good.
Yeah.
Everything that they've sent me is of good quality. I feel like sometimes, the produce does seem to be maybe a little wilty or getting close to the end of its life. But generally, I would say everything comes in pretty good order. Everything's usually there.
Yeah.
It's easy to follow. Tastes good.
Look, it's like, here's the calculus on waste. Like, you really narrow it down. I used to spend so much at the store just like grabbing shit off the shelf that I thought I'd do something with and then not know what to do with it or it'd go bad quickly. And so now you get the exact amounts, very little to no waste. I end up finishing everything because, again, I can bring it leftovers the next day for lunch or something. So from that perspective, I'm really happy with it. It's very nice. I feel much better not throwing away all this wasted food.
Little waste in food product, but more in packaging, which you can return.
Well, that's true.
Which you can return to them.
Yeah.
But everything's individually wrapped and plastic, and so you're creating a lot of rubbish, right?
Right.
Yep.
I did notice they've made improvements in the new year. So the last delivery that I received from HelloFresh on last week, you'd open the flap up, the box, and then it would have some kind of foil plastic material and shit that they'd have the ice pack in.
Yep.
Now it's a cardboard thing. It's a different product. So it's like,
okay.
So I think they're trying to go recycled products a little bit more.
Good.
Clean up some of that.
I think that's their biggest ding that you see online about them is just like the amount of waste, waste paper product, waste plastic product that you're generating from that. Yeah, food is down, which is great.
Yeah.
But that's at least compostable if you throw it away.
At least
right?
compostable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's the deal. I mean, I will say it's amazing to me when I go to the garbage room in the apartment. We have a room with a chute.
Oh, right.
Like, just the sheer volume of Amazon packaging and boxes on a daily basis now. I mean, it's ridiculous. Cardboard boxes everywhere.
Yep. You hope all that's getting properly recycled. Like, you hear stories where like recycling doesn't get done the way you think it does, right? But
yeah,
you hope.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Well, there you go. That was the food episode 61. Thanks, everybody. Shout out to Your Name the Gentle Giant, and we'll see you next week.
This episode of the Coffee and Codecast is brought to you by HelloFresh.
There you go. HelloFresh and hot tamales.
Screw that shit.
Hey. What's going on, man?
Do you like Sonos products?
I have a few of them.
We haven't talked about Sonos in a while.
I almost bought another one yesterday.
What'd you almost get?
Well,
The Move?
for me, it's big spend January.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I'm bucking the trend of no spend January.
Right.
I'm just buying shit like a fucking madman.
What'd you almost buy? Well, first of all, let's start with the Sonos product, and we'll circle back around to...
Of course. Yeah, I was just going to do that. The amp, because I have a stereo system, right, that I can't direct. I have an old stereo receiver, and it's a big power amp because I have some really nice monitors. I just don't have Sonos capability on that.
Okay, so this would bring your existing receiver and other speakers on into the Sonos ecosystem, so you could share audio amongst, you have a couple of Play Ones, right?
I have a couple
Or
Play
Sonos
ones.
I guess they're called.
So I have three. I haven't talked about this either, but I have the Sonos Play Ones, right? Those are there. One in the bathroom, one in kind of the
Sonos one.
Sonos one. Bathroom living area, and then in the living room, I've got these awesome floor standing speakers. Badass. Can't use those in the network. But I do have a Klipsch, the 3, which is fucking awesome, man. Klipsch makes some really snazzy products that are Sonos compatible.
Really? I didn't know there was... Well, I mean, I knew that... I'm drawing a blank now here. Who's the cheap furniture? IKEA had some cheap versions of Sonos products, but I didn't know they had moved into any other groups.
Klipsch the 3, you got to take a look. I'll put a link in here in a minute, but it's a beautiful product. This is the vintage series, and so it's got a mid-century modern aesthetic to it. This is like a dark walnut or mahogany kind of frame, and it has a really cool mesh, but it looks like an old school radio kind of a thing with really cool brass knobs, and it works with Sonos, so I can play that as another source. And
oh yeah, I remember you got this before you moved back to the Nolo.
Yeah,
but I didn't realize at the time that I thought it was a Bluetooth thing. I didn't realize it was Sonos compatible.
Well, so it has multiple functions, and one of them is Wi-Fi enabled. And then once you have it registered on the network, then when you're using the app, you can have it Now, this is the part I still have to figure out, but within the Klipsch app, you can have it select zones,
Okay.
and then you can have it pick like the Sonos room and
Wow.
the bedroom. And
Okay.
whatever else. Yep.
That's cool.
Pretty neat.
Yeah.
It looks cool. It's just, I love Sonos for the ease of use, the convenience factor. Aesthetics are okay. I mean, it's kind of a minimalist thing.
Right.
If you want something to look like a cool piece of furniture, the Klipsch ones really look neat.
Right. Yeah, this has got what brass knobs and like a really nice like wood grain finish on the top and the bottom.
Real wood, yeah.
Yeah. Looks really good.
Real wood.
Yep. How much is that bad boy?
I don't remember. 5
hundo?
500.
All right. Well, anyway, the reason I brought Sonos up is they made news recently where they're going to actually end of life a number of their first gen products. So what that means for the Sonos family of products that they're removing support for is that they won't provide any further software updates to them, which kind of on the surface sounds like maybe not a big deal. So like they'll continue to just run the same software version indefinitely.
To a point, yeah.
But the problem like that this creates is that, well, if Spotify changes their API,
You're fucked.
you're screwed. Like now it can no longer play Spotify because it won't get an update to support it.
That's the problem with hardware retiring.
And it
Software.
Yeah, exactly. It was something that I never really had thought of at this point. Like you think of something like AirPlay, right? Like
Yeah.
AirPlay is something that is managed through the phone, and the phone communicates to all the devices that use AirPlay. Doesn't matter what the source is, right? The only source is Apple supporting AirPlay and all the devices supporting AirPlay. Like this, in this case, you have Sonos supporting Google Music, Apple Music, Spotify, any other series of media platforms. And so like if they can't continue to update those and keep them up to date, then you're screwed.
I have a good example of this. I was visiting mom over the holidays. My mom's not the most tech savvy. She's not upgrading hardware like we are, buying gaming systems. I remember it was a big deal when she got a Nintendo Wii when they first came out. The old first gen, right?
Right.
It was like everybody was excited about that. That was like the most exciting release of a game product that I can remember. People,
Yeah, that was
really,
huge.
really huge.
Even old people got into that.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Old people too. Everybody got into it. It was like the fitness thing, bowling, sports, all kinds of shit you can do with the Wii. And so mom got a Wii for a gift, whenever that 15 years, I don't remember when it was. But we were back at home for the holidays, and she moved to a new house last year, and she said, "Hey, I'm having issues getting this thing to work. Can you hook it up?" And one of the cool things about the Wii at the time was that when you were web connected, you could go to the Wii store, whatever it was, and you could download the old Nintendo games.
Yep.
Mario Brothers, Duck Hunt, and all that cool shit. So I got it working, and I don't know, there was something wrong with the disc was dirty, whatever. We got it working again, got it connected to the internet, go online, and like 3 years ago they discontinued the Wii store. And they're like, yeah, we basically just stopped it. You can't go online anymore. You can't download games anymore. No Nintendo games. You have to get the new Nintendo Switch store, whatever the fuck that is.
Yep.
But you're kind of, it sucks because like it would have been cool if they had a better end of life transition where they said, look, we're just going to archive this shit, or we're going to like give, I don't know, maybe there was a chance you had to download everything within a window, but they didn't know about it.
Yep.
So now you can't even do anything with it. It's lost functionality now because it doesn't work with the things that it did before.
It's super disappointing. Like think of your Klipsch speaker. Like if for whatever reason, like suddenly you couldn't use that because you couldn't play anything through it anymore. Like you bought this really nice piece of hardware that like a speaker generally you figure is going to be good for a very long time.
Should always work.
Yeah. And should be good for decade, more than a decade probably.
Long time.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they're including a number of different products. The first generation amp, the Connect, the first generation Play 5. I have two of the newer generation Play 5s, and the Sonos Bridge. So none of these are like super recent. In fact, these all came out between 2011 and 2015. So they're all pretty old. But
relatively. I mean, that's the other problem, isn't it? Is that these things, back in the day, if you bought a pair of speakers, you wouldn't be saying that like the fact that they're 8 years old means they're getting old.
That's right. Well, and that's what they are arguing is they're like, these all have microprocessors in them, like by hardware standards, in terms of technology, they're really old.
Yeah.
So it kind of eye-opened me a little bit. Like I'm not going to switch away from them. And actually a lot of their new speakers are starting to embrace like Bluetooth and other technologies, which will make them even, continue to be useful even if like this happens to them.
Yeah.
So I think they need to continue to move down that path. But like this wasn't something that I had considered, I guess, when I first purchased the products. I still love them. I still love Sonos as a whole. But like this kind of, I was just like, took me aback, and I had to think about, I guess, buying any more, which my wife probably loves to hear.
She doesn't believe that for a minute.
She's always like, why the fuck do we need another speaker? Where are we going to put it?
You can never have too many speakers.
Yep.
The more you have, the quieter you can have the music because it plays everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
That's what I would love. You just walk around the house and it's everywhere.
You can't tell where it's coming from.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little music zen.
Yep. So yeah, that's all I had on Sonos end of life older products. Apparently you can return these older products if you have one and get some sort of a credit to buy newer stuff, of course. I'm sure it's much like your Mac that you went and tried to look for credit on. I'm sure you get dick for these things, but
that's a horrible thing. That's just a really bad experience. I wish they wouldn't even offer a price. It's so insulting what they're going to pay for that shit. I mean, this Mac, I spent $3,800. I paid tax on it. I mean, it was like damn near $4,000 when it was all done with the Apple Care and all the bullshit that came with it. That was 18 months ago. Maybe a little longer than that. No, it was about 18 months ago. And like they would offer me $1,500 for it today.
Yeah, but what the Apple Care doesn't really come, like that doesn't transfer with the computer, does it?
It's like 300. It does, actually.
Does it really?
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's only dropped twice.
No, that one didn't drop. Well, one time it did. But it was in its case. It was in its sleeve.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I guarantee if you looked at the internals, it wouldn't show any. Do they have a fall detector built into the MacBook Pro?
Accelerometer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably noticed that. I don't know, because how many people come in after they, drop the thing or throw it out of a second-story window, and then they're like, I don't know what happened. It won't turn on. They have to put accelerometers in there to be like, it looks like it fell fucking 60 feet, dude. What the hell were you doing? Yeah, not good.
Yeah.
I know that we got how much time left here?
Oh, we're only halfway through, buddy.
Perfect. Because I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit of what's going on around the office. Just it's review season,
Yeah.
A little bit of that, a little bit of what's going on with management, a little management check-in maybe.
Good. I had a little bit of that on here.
Excellent.
So, yeah. Fire away. Start it up.
Sure, I'll get it started up. So this is my first.
Snacks.
There's only a couple tamales left. Yep, we're out of tamales. We're no longer sponsored by Hot Tamale because we ran out. They didn't give us enough. They only gave us a half a cup from the kitchen downstairs. Bastards. Yeah, I think this is cool, man. I am really enjoying this management process. I've been a manager now for about, 4 months? 5 months? 4 months, I don't know. Several months. And this is my first time having to go through the end-of-year review process. I've got 7 reports, but some of those were exempt from this because they were new hires, so they didn't have to participate in the process. But yeah, going through it right now for the first time. And it's a different process because we're now a subsidiary of our parent company. So they have their own process for doing this thing, their own methodologies and processes. But it's been very, very good.
It's much more formal, right?
It's a very formal process, right? So we have our own internal thing that we do as managers, and there's a part that we do, and then everybody gets their own self-assessment that they fill out, right, and have to answer some questions and rate ourselves. And then the manager has to add remarks to that assessment and give a rating of the employee, and then you talk about it. And the difference here too for me, first time that I've been a part of this process where the compensation was really not part of the same discussion. I don't know, is that common? Is that more common now? I always felt like you wrapped it all up into one package. And so if there were adjustments or things, corrections you were going to make, that you'd figure all that shit out. And then you'd have the conversation, say, well, it was a great year and you're going to get, 5% bonus this year. Great job.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way most companies have done it that I've been involved with. This would be the first one where I've had multiple conversations of that variety, right? Where you give them kind of their review conversation and then a comp conversation comes later.
Separate.
Does make a little bit of sense, I guess, because I think what they're trying to do is compile the amount of people that have fallen in each kind of skill level category of rating, right? Like had a great year, had a off year, whatever. Trying to figure out where everybody lands and figure out, where all the pile of money that is the compensation can be delivered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From that standpoint, it makes sense. Then they just need to get the input first to make a decision. Well, how we're going to do that? Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That's what I would kind of envision seeing here, but
What I want to say though, I like this process. I was very nervous because I'm very much a people person, people pleaser even. I mean, it's at its worst, like at its best, like really social, really like, easy to meet people, get along with people. Love social interaction,
You're
get
an
energized
I.
by that. I'm an I on the disc profile.
Yeah.
I am. I'm an I. So that's my wheelhouse, man. I get energized by being with other people and doing that kind of thing. But this is tough because now you're in a management role and sometimes the conversations aren't so great. And so how do you deal with that? But I also think, I was telling you this earlier, that a review time shouldn't be revealing anything new. It should really just be recapping what we've already discussed, good or bad, plan for the new year, like, what went well, what could go better, and what we're going to do this year, right?
Yep.
Pretty simply. And so for that matter, I really enjoyed it because at that point, it's not really a tough thing at that point. You're just kind of rehashing some things and setting some goals for the next year. So
That's the problem, I think, right? Is a lot of people will put off having those difficult conversations in the one-on-ones, or maybe they don't have one-on-ones.
yeah,
And so you end up having these periods of time go by where maybe something's starting to bother you as a manager about some particular employee or how they're behaving or doing their work or not doing their work or whatever. And you get to the review time and like now you have to unload the whole thing. So it's this big spew of things that you have to tell this person, and clearly they're not going to take it well.
that's going to be just terrible. That's like letting out a grenade in the room. If you're coming in with new information that the other person that your report doesn't know about, hasn't heard about, how the hell is that going to go? That's not going to go well at all.
Yeah. So hopefully, you're having your one-on-ones regularly. You're giving them direct feedback regularly, good and bad.
Right.
So then, exactly to your point, when you get to the review time, they know exactly what you're going to say because you've been saying it all along, right?
That's right.
Or it's going to be all positive because everything that you've given them as a negative is hopefully course corrected.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a huge win. If everything was comfortable and everybody felt good about it, then I think that's all you can hope for.
So I enjoyed it. It was my first cycle going through this. I'm still in the middle of it right now. I've got some more to do this week, but I've enjoyed that part of management. It's been exciting and it's grown me in many ways because, again, being naturally a people pleaser, that's not going to cut it in management either. If I was always going to act in that way, then I'd be doing a disservice to people and wouldn't be growing and probably wouldn't be in the long run well suited to be a manager. So it's forced me out of my comfort zone that way, to identify things in the moment, to have those conversations, big or small, whatever, hopefully addressing them when they're really small so they don't become big things. It's been good.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
And kind of going back to the disc profile, I'm a C, right?
Oh boy.
Which means that, generally speaking, you shy away from conflict.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it's been a struggle too, to make sure that I have those conversations and get comfortable being able to have those types of conversations with people, which for me doesn't come naturally. Neither does like socializing, which is something that the eyes are very, very good at. But I think to the point of that we discussed today in kind of that meeting, like being steady, always knowing what you're going to get, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Thoughtful, etc. Like those things help me, and I have a pretty good time with that. But like the difficult conversations for me are difficult, but I think I've been able to kind of over time feel much more comfortable and confident in them. And luckily, I haven't had to have a ton of them.
Yeah, likewise. That's not a common thing. Hopefully, that's not commonplace for anybody. But might have to make some personnel changes if that's the case. But I think you said it best recently. We were talking about it, and it's just the more that you flex that muscle, the more that you exercise that, the easier it becomes. And I've certainly found that to be the case for me. That the more that I've kind of had those conversations, and the easier it's become. Not necessarily even like a bad thing, just even critiques. Like I think it's really easy for me to want to just go to what's working great and what's positive, and maybe there's things that aren't bad but could just be improved on. Like, hey, go meet some of the people on the floor. Like, go be a little more social. Get out of your desk, whatever it is. And like even that initially was a little difficult for me to just even want to offer any kind of criticism.
Yeah.
So it's been a good exercise to do that, and it's getting much easier. It's not as scary as I thought it would be.
I think it's important to do too, even if you're not a manager, or if you are and you're managing up. Like, it can go up the chain just as much as it can go down the chain, right? Like, I definitely appreciate solid feedback, coming up to me as well.
Yeah, I welcome that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I know I'm not perfect. I want to make sure that I can be the best I can be, and help the team in any way that I can possibly help them. So if there's things I'm not doing that are, or not doing well or at all or whatever, I want to know about them. I've always said, like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm pretty thick-skinned in that way. So, like, positive and negative feedback, I want that. Also, peer. The same goes for peers. You and I, we talk about a lot of these things, and if I don't agree with something that you are doing or have to say, I'll usually tell you. Not usually, I always tell you.
Yeah.
We've had disagreements about various things here or there, and kind of had snippy chats back and forth, I think, on text a few times. But
I mean, you've gotten it wrong a few times. What can I say?
Hey, don't worry about it.
You're doing great. Where's he at? Slayer?
You're doing great.
Thank you, buddy. I know I'm doing great. Don't be too discouraged, Kyle. It's fine, man.
Yeah,
it happens to the best of us.
Yeah, can't always be right all the time.
That's all right.
But yeah, I think for me, kind of in a general check-in, because this is something that we had on here for a long time in the notes, is I would say, because I've been manager now for, gosh,
Couple of years?
I think a couple of years.
Seems like it.
It's about right with the Everest project and now this. It's been an interesting learning experience, much like you talked about. I guess at the onset, this is a funny admission. I would look at all these young guys coming in, especially like interviewing or just getting started and that sort of thing, and like just the sheer amount of things that they know that I've never been exposed to because they're brand new technologies, right?
Yeah, learned it just now.
Yep, and they're fresh out of school and super gung ho, and I'm just like, dude, I've got like all these old frameworks and technologies that I've got experience with, and now I've got to learn these 5 other ones that these guys are all coming up with, right? And it kind of became overwhelming to some degree.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I love to learn, don't get me wrong. I still enjoy learning a lot of different things, but like at some point I was just like, man, how do I keep up with all these young guys coming straight out of college with all they know is like this modern technology, and I have just like this glut of continuously getting older stuff, right? And so like going into management, I was like, well, now I don't have to worry about that stuff. Well, you don't have to worry about that, but now you got to worry about something else, right? I mean, and you still do have to worry about the technology to some degree, right? Because that's part of your job, is to guide some of that conversation.
That was probably the biggest misconception on my part getting into this role. I was really afraid to get into it because it meant I was leaving development. And if I figured if I did that, then I would most certainly stagnate and be so removed from the technology that I would probably not be employable as a developer again. That was kind of like, those are the voices in my head at the time. And I have to say, while I'm not spending hours a day writing software, it's like riding a bike. Like, I haven't forgotten how to do that, at least in the last few months. But I've gotten more exposure to more technologies, platforms, areas of technology like database stack, Snowflake, SQL, Azure, different SQL MI, like all these different technologies that I really didn't have any business messing with before much. Getting into that a lot more now, getting a more in-depth understanding. The DevOps side, ADO and all of its capabilities, and then there's the compliance pieces. So there's so many other things that have come out of it that I'm learning more now than I was as a developer, because I think there it was a very narrow scope, even though within development, of course, there's so many things changing on a daily basis, front-end frameworks, back-end, all these things are constantly evolving. But now it's like this bigger sphere of technology, which is not just development tools, but it's like the systems that run them and support them and much more stuff.
Yep. Yeah, now you're at a higher level, right? Yeah. More so from like looking at it from like, say, the 10,000 foot level or something, right? Like now you're not doing the day-to-day work, but you're still looking at it. You still know what's happening. You're managing personalities. You're managing tickets to some degree. You're managing communications. Like you're managing a whole lot of other things now instead of just like day-to-day dev work.
That's right.
Right? So like, yeah, I agree with you. I'm still learning a ton. We just had a conversation today where I was doing some stuff, and one of the guys on the team was like, hey, slow down. Like maybe we should talk about this, or I should be working on that or whatever. So, I mean, it's still a learning experience. It's a growth experience. And I think that's something that we're both still dealing with. And so like, you're you're learning, but you're learning different things.
It's different things, but the pace of it's different. It's faster. I always felt overwhelmed on big projects as a developer because I felt like there was always the pressure of deadlines and having to work hard and fast and getting things out. And I don't know. This is just my experience. I'm not going to generalize that this is everybody's experience, but I look back and I think, man, I work a lot harder now than I did then by a mile. It's just a different pace. It's certainly, I don't have the focus that I had before. That's different because you can't really focus in this level. You're doing a lot of multitasking and picking up and putting down. But just like the amount of information, I guess, that I have to retain is much larger now than it was before. And the information is spread across different domains. It's not just like, I don't have the luxury of just being focused on one feature of one project anymore or something like that, right? Or a couple and juggling back and forth. It's like, could be talking about something over here and then 5 minutes later, a discussion about something completely off on the other end of the spectrum.
Right. And to that point, now you have to delegate. We talked about this, I think, earlier in the evening, is like, whereas you might have caught wind of something before and spent hours diving into it, maybe building some prototype or doing all kinds of work against it. Right now, it's like 15 minutes of information. Okay, zing, who can I send that to?
That's
15
right.
minutes, zing, who can I send that to? Oh, create a ticket. Oh, create a task, right?
It really, it's a forcing function to distill down to the real core components. What do I need to do right now to produce some kind of value? And there just isn't the luxury of time really anymore to experiment or try things out and say, oh, I'm going to prototype this and I'm going to spend like 3 days on it. Like I don't have that luxury anymore. It's like there's, as quickly as I'm completing a task, 2 more come in. And so it's a matter of like, who do I give that to? How do I get this done? How do I keep things moving forward? Because I don't want to drop any information. That's really was my goal coming in as a new manager, was I don't want to drop any balls. I mean, I'm going to get behind. There's going to be too much to get done in a day, but I just don't want to forget about something or let something lapse. And so it's important to capture it all. And I feel like I've been fairly successful at that. But yeah, trying to get it done, that's a new challenge.
It's hard to do. Like, I mean, you have what, 7 people, 8 people?
I have 7 right now. Yeah.
I mean, that's a big team. And the more you continue to add on to that, I mean, you have all those 7 people coming to you for things. You have all the dev teams coming to you for things. So, I mean, you're not only managing your team, but you're managing communications from tons of teams.
That's the difference. We have identified somewhere in the ballpark now of like 9, 10 products, or at least development teams that we have in across the board in our organization in 4 locations now. And so it's like, yeah, we provide DevOps and database support for all of those teams. And we're talking today about how we can participate in all of their, we want to have some involvement in each team's Scrum ceremonies. And there's only a limited number of us. So it's like, yeah, that's the task. It's like managing the team, the core team, and then also supporting our customers. And we have 10 of them, and they all want to talk to you like, their thing is like fresh of, front of mind and going from stand up A to B to C. And it's like, it's really hard for me sometimes. I'm trying to get adjusted to like have the notes and be mindful of what's going on, because everybody's shit's the most important shit, And so somebody's going to ask me about this particular database for this particular project, and it has nothing to do with what we talked about 15 minutes ago on the other team, but I need to know where it's at, what's going on with it. So new challenge, exciting though, because it goes by fast.
I think something that's kind of cool about your position is like you jumped from dev to DevOps and to the DBA's team, which was something, I mean, yeah, you wrote scripts and maybe you could do some stuff in SQL, right? Manage SQL servers or something like that, but not to the level, obviously, that these guys are doing it.
Oh, they're brilliant. I have no clue what the hell's going on half the time.
And so you hopped into something that was like completely unknown. So like what I mean by this is like, okay, I'm somewhat in the same boat. Like I'm doing dev management.
Yeah.
But I don't work in the technology stack that I'm managing. Right?
Yeah,
I know
right.
Java, I know JavaScript, but not as well as these guys do.
Yeah.
I don't use Node, I've written Node scripts, like very basic, simple scripts, but I've never written the kind of code that these guys are writing. And so it's an interesting dynamic that it creates, because like if you get into a position where you're not feeling comfortable, like what's the first thing that you want to do? You want to step back into what it is that you did that made you successful to begin with.
Sure.
But you can't, right? You can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how to write the code that they're writing. I mean, I could step in and try to do something, but it's going to take me forever.
Yeah, right. That wouldn't be valuable.
And you can't at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I just don't even know where to start with some of this stuff.
So it creates an interesting dynamic. I mean, we talk about in other podcasts, we've talked about like really putting yourself out there. I mean, we've really put ourselves out there to a large degree.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a little bit scary. But most of the time I've felt pretty comfortable in that place. But
it's a good place to be. I think it's always a good, from my point of view, I've had the most success when I've been the most uncomfortable getting into something. It'd be different if I like went into banking or finance tomorrow. I don't know shit about that. Like that would just be stupid. But within the realm of technology and things I do know, like in that sphere, this was a big stretch because it was a new area. Like these are both areas that I'm not really intimately familiar with. I've been writing code for 20 years. I don't really understand. I know aspects of database, aspects of DevOps, but yeah, certainly not at that level. And it is just I lost my train of thought on the whole thing. But it's been really good too, because having the attitude of like, look, I'm not trying to become the expert. I'm not trying to get into this to be as smart as these guys or smarter. Like that's why they're here, because they're fucking smart. They know what they're doing. My job is to get the roadblocks out of the way, and I can learn along the way too. And so I think from that perspective, it's really exciting. If I would have gone into it thinking I had to like get up to speed and ramp up, that would have been a big disaster, and it really wouldn't have served the purpose. But that was the fear, is that like, oh man, do I really know what I'm doing over here? Should I really be going into this area? And ultimately, to free them up, sure, I can provide value there.
If you feel you got to be the smartest guy in the room, like good luck to you. You know, like hopefully that's not the case, because like in my scenario at least, I would love to hire an entire team of people that can write code better than I can, regardless of language. Right?
That's right.
Why wouldn't you? Really? I mean, if it's your team, why would you not?
You want the best people you can get. You want to have the biggest performance, deliver the best software, that sort of thing. And that's where I'm at. I have an amazing team, and I want to do everything I can to get blockers out of their way so that they can learn and grow and execute and do amazing things. It's a lean team. 7 people supporting 10 different development groups in the organization. That's a pretty lean operation there.
Mm-hmm. Well, hold on.
Tell me about it.
You're doing great.
I really appreciate that vote of confidence, Slayer. He's always my motivator, that guy. He's always coming around here to give me a pat on the back.
Yeah, that's what he does.
Old Slayer.
Yeah. How do you managing stress? Because like we mentioned earlier, like throughout the day, like a million different things come in from a million different angles, and sometimes like it gets just really frustrating because you want to tackle a few things and knock them off your list, and you just can't, because stuff just keeps coming in from all directions, right? So how have you found managing with stress and coping with that?
Well, stress has ramped up a lot in the last few months, a lot, and more work. But I would say the realization up front, acknowledging that it's just not possible to get it done, that it's never going to get, you're never going to get back to inbox zero, project zero. Either I don't think you should have the goal anymore to be complete, because if that actually happens in a slow time or something, it's going to be very short-lived, and then you're going to get 50 other things that pile on, right? So I think it's just setting expectation in the beginning anyway, that look, like you got to have a different paradigm for managing this, because getting it down to nothing is just probably not very likely is going to happen. So it really becomes about prioritization, and this is interesting because it's the corollary to this is several of us are reading the Phoenix Project right now, which is kind of like the DevOps manifesto. It's a novel about the evolution of IT and how DevOps came into be, and it's a really fun read. I'm burning through it. It took me a while to get into it, and now I'm just like, the last couple nights I've been plowing through it. I'm almost done. So highly recommend the Phoenix Project. Gene Kim is the author of that book, and also did the DevOps Handbook and a few others. But I mean, really, it's a template for our company to a T, and many, many other companies that are like started out as startups are now like mid-sized companies and growing, and have these other regulatory things that they have to do. Lots of demands from lots of areas. And so they talk about it in various ways about identifying, it is about prioritization and different types of work, but also identifying the bottlenecks. So there's a lot of things that I'm trying to learn about how to manage that. And I think the main thing now is just like focusing on what really matters, letting that surface to the top, and other things, saying no or letting it fall off. In the moment, lots of people come in and say, oh my gosh, I need this thing. It's really urgent. And then if you do just take the next step to find out what it's about, a lot of times it's not, maybe on their mind, it's really important, but it's not aligned with the company's priorities. It's not going to impact revenue. And so I think what's helped me in that whole thing, long story, long way to get around to the answer, is just identifying really like what's important, and discarding the rest, delegating. I think that's been the biggest help so far.
I manage a remote team, so an hour difference in terms of time zone. So one of the things I used to do often was I would use my noon hour, and I would go take a walk, right? Have lunch, and then maybe just walk several blocks or something like that, just to kind of get the stress out of the system.
Yeah.
Always seemed to help me pretty well, and it was a good way to do it. Reason I bring up the fact that I work with a remote team is like now, oftentimes I have a meeting over my noon hour, mainly because that's a good hour for my team because they're not at lunch. But then somebody will, if I say like, oh, well, my lunch is now going to be at 1 or something like that, 1 to 2, well, somebody will schedule me here for a 1 to 2 meeting. So like I end up getting booked all the way through a lot of times. So like I don't have the time to go on those walks and kind of have that outlet any longer. I often use my wife also as a outlet. So
just go home and yell at her all the time.
Yell at her, yeah.
There you go. That's one way to get
throw
it.
some shit. Yeah.
I had a bad day. Nice.
No, I talk through pretty much everything with her. I mean, if it's happening at work, generally she knows about it. She gives me a ton of really good feedback usually. I say very often here that like she's the smarter one than I am. I get a lot of my ideas from her. But I think that's a good way to kind of unwind after the day and output everything that you're kind of holding on to and what do I want to say, pushing down. Just get it out, right? So that way you can kind of move on from it and get some clarity on it and move on. And that's worked pretty well for me. So I still need to figure out the whole idea of getting out and just taking a stroll sometimes. But this weather, I don't want to do it anyway. So
pretty shitty right now.
Yeah, I have been running in the morning a little bit more often. That helps too. I mean, it's not in the middle of the day, but of course, any exercise is going to help.
I mean, running has always been my outlet. I have been less engaged. I was a cross-country runner in college, high school, a competitive runner, and then now more recreationally. But I always find that like just getting on the treadmill or going outside for 20 minutes does more for me than any other outlet that I have. So I love going to that. And a lot of times if I notice stress is really like the volcano is about to erupt, or it's erupted and I can't get out of the funk, then I have to run, and it's almost like a fucking reset button. It just works.
Yep.
And I immediately feel better. The problems kind of go away. The other thing too, we talked about when we were doing the work, when we were out at the Union Gospel Mission the last time, service work to me is another form of therapy around that too, because I think it's really easy to kind of get caught up in this bubble that is work. I live down here. I work down here. I don't like during the week. I don't get out much, especially if it's a busy week or we're having outages and that sort of thing. But that, that Thursday night going out and working the vans for a few hours is kind of another perspective shift. And I've always come back from that feeling like, okay, you know what? Like, yeah, I got yelled at or this thing went wrong and this shit happened and blew up. But like, I'm not I'm in a much better place than maybe I thought I was, and you see just being out there and getting a different perspective shift helps me kind of clear that up a little bit.
Can't remember if we talked about this in person or on the show, but one of the things that I wouldn't say a New Year's resolution, but one of the things I wanted to do this year was be a little more cognizant and I think I used the term be grounded, be anchored, right? I was going to look at these like bracelets that you can get that are, I think they're called like sailing bracelets or something like that. Well, a lot of them clasp with an anchor. And the whole idea of it was like exactly what you just described. Like, think about where you're at in life.
Yeah.
And yeah, you might have problems. Everybody has problems, right? But then, go and do service work like that and see how how well you have it, right?
We're walking
You're-
through tent cities where people are living in squalor, and it's pouring down rain, and it's 40 degrees outside, and they haven't had a clean pair of clothes on in 3 weeks or longer. Changes your perspective pretty fucking quickly.
Right. So I think that's a pretty important rule. I mean, even for management, even if I guess anything, right? Like
Yeah.
just stay grounded, like what you're dealing with in the moment, although it might be stressful, like you're probably just fine as you take a step back or a few steps back away from it, right?
Absolutely. Survey's got a little thing about his calendar and Outlook. I'll respond to you later on that, Survey. It's certainly a good idea. Not always practical. I've struggled with that here, but it's a good idea.
I'm in the same boat. We'll see. I'll see if I can block off some time. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Our artwork is provided by Yurnay, the Gentle Giant. Check out more of his artwork at www.coffeecodecast.com/gentlegiant. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Email us at coffeecodecast@gmail.com. Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find all of this and more on our website at www.coffeecodecast.com.
Go to coffeegoguys.com/review and you give us a shout out, give us some notes, tell us what you like and don't like and
Shit.
other shit. Send us some hot tamales for next episode
And
62.
Hello Fresh credits.
HelloFresh credits. And some Sonos products that aren't going to be discontinued in the next few weeks.
You want us to get some discontinued Sono products.
There
Nice.
you go. All right. Thanks, everybody. Great show. And we'll talk to you next week.
Good show.
Oh, yeah. Video.